Hello, Astrologer Dawn here. Check out astrologerdawn.com to find out more about me, services, products, and all that kind of good stuff. Today I want to talk about the summer special that's going on. It is August the 2nd, 2018. And until August the 5th, 2018, I am offering a summer special. So instead of the $150 that it normally costs for a 1 hour either initial or follow-up consultation, it's now going to be $111. So that's a $39 savings. So if you've been thinking about needing some answers, now's the time to do it. I really want to focus on relationships. And as I said in my email, for those of you who received it, who subscribe to my MailChimp newsletter, you know, relationships are the foundation of everything. Everything comes back to relationships, you know. And so the first one I wanted to look at was relationship with self, because that is the most important. You know, also want to talk about astrology, human design, and conditioning as well. So, you know, I have looked at thousands of astrological charts and human design charts over the years, and they're always consistent. They always tell me who you are, and when I share information with you, it usually just validates who you knew that you were, most of the time though, not acting that way, and that's because you have been conditioned. So, you know, when I look at a chart, here is an astrological chart. Actually, it's mine, but it's back to front, so I don't know if you can see it. And of course, I can read that because I'm an astrologer. And the same thing, a human design chart. This gives me great information about people and about who they are. You know, first thing I go is, oh, this is a manifestor. Only 8% of the population, they're not here to work. And then I find out that they're working, you know, 3 jobs. It's like, oh my God, talk about being burnt out. And of course, that is what's happening. So the charts are a window into your soul, and they're better than doing something like taking a Myers-Briggs or a DISC assessment, because those are based on how you feel. Your answers are going to be how you feel that day. So if you just come back from grandma's funeral, you're not feeling great and you have to take one, going to answer it differently than if you spent 2 weeks in Tahiti with a loved one and feeling really sort of energized. So that is very different in the way that, that we show up. So based on your astrological and your human design charts, we come into the world knowing exactly who we are, and then we meet these people called parents, and the conditioning starts. So we get conditioned through our parents, through school, through peers, through the media, all family, friends, all kinds of conditioning comes. And conditioning is you being instructed to be somebody that you're not, to act in a certain way that you're not, to like things that you don't like. This is all conditioning. And I'm going to go much more into that in another video in a couple of days. But we know who we are. So parents start to change us. Then they send us to the prison. You guys know I consider it prison. No shame, blame, or judgment on those of us who've done it. I have put my children in school at some points too. It's not about that. This is just information. We send them to the prison for 12 years to memorize and regurgitate information that you can glean off the internet in a much smaller amount of time. You know, it only takes 3 months to teach children to read, write, and understand basic math. Anyway, besides the point. So we spend all that time there, and we're encouraged to go to the open prison of college. Now, all this time, we're being changed. You know, we don't want to go to geography class. We don't like geography. We want to spend a lot more time in the art class or the drama classes or the musical classes. No, not allowed to do that. You know, when I did send my eldest to school, I sent him to Keno in Tucson, and he would spend 8 hours a day doing math. By the time he was 7, he was doing calculus because he didn't know anything about ages. There are certain ages to do things. So he always had a love of math. You know, and he's put it to good use in his businesses. So really knowing what you love and recognizing what you love and holding on to that is very difficult when you're growing up and you've got to go through all of these things that other people want you to do. So even if you do go to the open prison or the university, which is college, of course, you usually end up taking a degree that maybe you're interested in that when you first start, but at the end of 4 years, that's not something you're interested in. Less than 28% of college graduates actually get jobs in the industry in which they have their degree. some of it is because they're not interested in that anymore. Some of it is because, of course, now you've got all this debt. And so you have to go to work. And you have to go and get a car and an apartment and credit cards. And you have to keep working in something you don't really want to do because you've been conditioned to do that. And there's no way out of it at that point, you know. So there comes a point, though, usually between 28 and 32, when major eruptions happen because you have your first Saturn return. So all the stuff comes to life. Grandpa dies, mum and dad get divorced, you end up married, you end up divorced, you have a baby, you move to another country, you quit work and go to school, you quit school and go to start a business. Just the big things. Somebody goes to prison, you go to rehab, somebody dies. It's a lot of big stuff during that time. And that's also a great opportunity and a great time to really sort of get clear about who you are. Of course, it doesn't matter if you're doing it before so that you can avoid some of the heartache that goes on with the Saturn return, or whether you do it afterwards when you've been through it and you've learned a lot more. But definitely, it's important to know what happened in your Saturn return. So, based on how we grow up, how most of us grow up, what values and beliefs have you been conditioned to believe? So, and these are things that will come from your parents. So if you saw your mom being very concerned about what the neighbors thought, so you always had to have a nice dress on or clean shoes, or you could only play in a certain way, or, you know, oh, they've got a new car, we'll have to get a new car. You will have been conditioned to care about what other people think. It won't show up exactly the same way, otherwise it's too easy. You know, it's way too easy when you do it that way. So the universe gives you something else. Or maybe your parents didn't speak up. You know, they'd get a meal in a restaurant, they'd pay for it, they didn't like it, but they didn't complain. And yet they spent the next 3 days at home complaining about it. And now you're in a restaurant and you do the same thing. So, you know, changing these patterns means really understanding who you are at your core. You can find more accurate information about your gifts, skills, talents, desires, wants, and needs by looking at your astrological and human design charts. So do you know what your beliefs and values are right now? Are they in alignment with who you really are? You know, and how do you know those current beliefs that you have fit what you were taught growing up? So you may have completely different beliefs now from what you were taught growing up. I know I certainly do. Are you clear about the life you want to live, well, and what you want to leave behind? And do you value you? Do you say yes when you mean no? Big problem with most of my clients. Do you take on too much and then feel overwhelmed? Do you feel responsible for other people? A lot of this is conditioning. It doesn't mean you can't be kind and you run over people and you don't help. There are certain ways and people to do that. Things I'll talk about in terms of relationships with others in a different email, in a different video. Are you working on increasing your self-esteem and self-belief? Do you ignore the red flags you see, hear, feel, or know in your life? How often are you hearing the voices in your head, second-guessing your intuitive decisions that will make your life move with more ease and flow? And become who you are, really, at the core. Are you fearful of making changes because of what the itty-bitty shitty committee says? I mean, they're there. And how have you been conditioned by those around you who are not you? People who've told you, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. You know, many of you know, I got into lots of trouble in school. Nearly all reports would say things like, Dawn talks too much. If Dawn didn't talk too much, other people could do their work. Dawn is too much of an entertainer. Duh! What am I now? Yeah. So, you know, couldn't be seen. Have you worked on making changes only to have others in your life want you to go back to the way you were? This is for their benefit, by the way, not yours. I want you to take advantage of the summer special and understand the real you, because you can see it through the astrological human design charts and ask questions, and I will use my trusty decks, the Thoth deck, one of them, and my Robin Wood deck, both of which I love. You know, you can ask questions of the tarot cards. It depends on the action you take as to, you know, whether they will keep you moving in the correct direction. And it's the same with astrology. When I look at what's going on astrologically for you, you know, if there's great energy for you to get a new job and you don't do anything about getting a new job, well, it's not the universe's fault. That you have to participate in. So if you really want to know more about who you are, you want your questions answered, and you really want to learn about how do you stay in who you are once you are really clear about it. How do you set up boundaries? How do you set up parameters? How do you say no instead of yes? How do you say yes to the correct things based on who you are? You're going to need to contact me. Summer special goes on until Sunday. It's good for a year. Plus, you can also send this video to anybody you like. They get the same thing. Friends, family, enemies, I don't know. Boss, whoever you want. Hey, if you want your boss to change, this is a great thing to send to your boss. I have a lot of bosses that I end up working with that tend to look at their employees in a different way once they've had the conversation with me. Anyway, poem I would love for you to remember. So true, so real. By Edward Teller. When you come to the end of all the light you know, and it's time to step into the darkness of the unknown, faith is knowing that one of two things shall happen. Either you'll be given something solid to stand on, or you'll be taught how to fly. See you soon. Namaste.